샘전 탐지에 된도 예르페바 탐말라 다시 될 수여당 찹지도 되네 샘전 탐지에 된도 소부 상지기 고반토고의 디시도 천인의 냠베 담바자제와 장주 샘계근 롱원도 당내 샘마쇼
Trashi Dele, everyone, please listen to Dharma with vast motivation of bodhicitta, thinking that I would like to become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings.
다 다른学기 전에 다 상지기 동백이 도 정륜낭네 류니바 되네 샘 쳔베 제르기 샘 쳔베 되네 당몰 류진베게 류 니바디学
And we are working on the sutra called the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, and on the second chapter, which is the chapter of Mahasattva, the prince who gave his body to attack Grace and her cubs.
And 다 대형 것이 가장 공도 실신에 가장 최내 모티브이나 다 대세 다 절보당 준모당 되는 콜당 제바 탐지 제세디 용해민도세는 최가 진리 대세 땅물 절부 샤니 세바를 쇠네 르바당 탁바식 아살라 쪽쪽바다를 두바 통내 준모니 준면이 권의 송 절부니 락바니 송대 총에 땀니 의바당 다 제세 총어디 샘쳔버디 나라송전의 최가 친류 되네 제세디 당매 샤탐제 사처와리 르바당 다살라보베 타치불 하드 동아리 대라되네 절베 되네 고기다 샤다사사르 고이 르발라송 아마게 라고 르발라송네 응오네 총에 땀네 무보당 대량 감네 링시 렌데 치르상어 되네 감네 세대다 앙닥기 되네 제메도 제로 앙닥 체다 전에 제메도 제네 되네 링식다 되네 제즈 깔마 가시 지지 체네 되네 점바데 조서 바래 상문 제일보 샘진 쳔보 대를 체편에 가댕게라인에서 계속 되네 제일보게 세되네 되네 류디 땅먹이 세바래 맞아 그 샘디 되네 라 제지 라 가댕게 달하율라 개발이 가댕라인에서 계속 덕 지제베 데르게 냠삼데 라이 미기 중어 근도 딱나 덕 체베베 루부 첼나 두발라 밤에 고르데 신도 일라 작베 냥에게 송의 둥엘신 총에 대바 통내 해삼바 되네 코란 가든 하율라케디 내가 주겐 가릴라 때는 가든 하율들 개바이나 세는 하이 면식이다 하이 미기 되네 주가다 녀와 이도 든두숨 하당 미 딜라 주마세도 되네 디가서 하마인데 테리아 하이공라 또 메리데다마 루이 공도 든두기 공도 시디 되네 리tuk디다 주말 되네 다들 되네 코란 류디 땅몰라 짐바 땅비기 되네 짐비기 제보되기 라유라 개바당 임바양 시통 Tene korangi lu ruba lak deba dela, tena pama desugi korne, tene pe dungel chenpo chene, tene deyo bayang tongbare segido.
So to continue from where we have left off last time, this chapter has already been begun previously, and we are going to continue from there. The sutra says, at that time, the prince, the flesh or meat of the prince has been completely eaten by the tigers and her cubs, but his bones and the bloods are there. So when the kings and the queens and their entourages or retinue saw that, and they all, of course, passed out. And first, they have only the bone is left there, and the queen hold on the head, and the king hold on the arms, the bone, and they all cry, and they just passed out, and they fainted for a while, and later they again become conscious. So, but somehow the prince, which is called Mahasattva, passed away there in that way, giving his body to the tigress and her cubs. But his consciousness, or he was reborn in the Tushita of the God's realm. So when he found himself in Tushita, then he thought, why and what causes him to be reborn there? So because he was already reborn as a god, a deva in Tushita, he has a special sight which is called the divine eyes. So he looked down with his divine eyes to all the everywhere to the 5 states of beings. So here when we say 5 states of beings, actually it's talking the same thing, all 6 realms of samsara. So why we call here 5 is this is another way of dividing samsara into 5 states. So when you say 5 states of beings, then somehow the God and human and the 3 lower realms, hell's realm and hungry ghost realm and animal realms. So what happened with the demigods realm or asura, then the upper part of asura is included in the God's realm, and the lower part of asura or demigod is included in the animal realms, which is also called naga. The naga belong to the animal realms. So here, when the sutra says he looked everywhere to the 5 states of being with his divine eyes, means he was actually looking everywhere in samsara. What happened and why he was born there. Then he found out the causes, and then also he saw his parents who are sitting around his bone in the jungle and missing him a lot and crying with a great suffering. Then the deva, that is not inside. Do something. Into you like a Pama got the Shindu Yila Chakbe, Tanarabana. That's all.
Chonge de Batone, Deni Le Samba, the Korangara Samba is not. Dagi Pama Didar Migawi Gengi Galdena Ludong Sogla Ludong Sogi Parchedu Jurgi Della Toa Kejing Tamjar to Nyam Samne Namkale Papte Tengi Namkale Tene Da Korang Pamatido Korangi Rubola Tene Nyangin Jene Juvekabso Da Di Ken Dela Tene Tene Sogi Barshia Jung Sikiri Samne Tene Da Di Korang Pamani Tene 냥엔 둥엘데 상하야기 체도 또와게 깨주고 삼네 되는 거 하데 남갈래 밥네 되네 파마 요새 땡기 남갈라 되네 되네 깨제시면 땡긴 남갈래 칙년바 남바 나초기 파마니 쪼와 깨도 칙 남바 나초기는 파마니 쪼 파마니기 남가라 때네 하그 수식 락바 더라 므시 제므바당 되네 파마니고디 하 저랑 수리 마솔라 마상와 장보시로지 선라반 므바당 레므바 당니 제부 셈진 첨보시 저와 인데 다기 류 땅모 똑발라 진니 가dengi 레인에서 계속 당아 처럼도 마신나데네 제부 셈침보디리 땅모 똑발라 류 진바 땅발라 되네 디디가 레이루를 개발해 되는 좀 제부 첨보 디다르 캔바로 저지 디인데 되네 처럼도 제보처 얍 제보처럼 되네 말 하유라 깨서와 임바 캠바지네 되네 동엘 맞이 냥인 맞이 정말 지점도 시바당 제비 최니 타르 지바옹세 다 시바 감정 거원이 니기 최지 인의 송대 타르 지바레 마도 미지비기 되네 딱된기 최강의 요 말에 디인상 냥인 제고 말에 개와 유난 예발 지고 디과제나 셈제녀월 둥기 개와제나 토레소 깨데 개와당 지반에 균라 신나데 다 디과제반이나니 되는 영의 성숨라 조고 그래 녀월라 조고 그래 개와제반이나니 토리라 조고 그래 디인데 말하는 개와제발라 되는 류진발 당발라 되는 토리 랄 레이루딘 도바레든 깨와당 직반에 균라 신나 탐제 깨와당 직벌리 마대바 깨와당 직비기랑 진전에 지레도 다옥 바시기 지르 냥행기 점도 홍월 미소람zem 되네 디인당 깨와 직바디 장말라 요래 있나야 저런 야빔처럼이 되네 나 직비 되는 냥행 직바디 속이면 하고 그러면 디인데 마치비 돈도 냥이고 말이 세트문이다. 개위 초라 준주 죄지 디인당 되는 말라 동엘당 셈데 마지바지는 저랑도 개와라 두비알라 룡아 있은 개와 두비알라 베르지는 디 밤에 매바 괜히 닝제 첨부 땅모 녀데 탐제라 닝제와 인나 다적 당대 최규집에 내니 kö든비치를 샤양 dum부를 제바점도 동일기 동나 닝제 첨부 제바 kö디다부 저 릭삼즈 샤랑다 닝제 첨부라 때네데 땅 류디 땅매기 칼라 녀네 되네 셈젠 탐제라 닝제게 이나야 다적 당대 대 가서 르당내 유전에 세 뒤집에 내니 kö든비 치를 샤양도 못도 제바점기 되네 동엘 용기도 센서는 동남 닝제 정말 제바케 대답을 저리선 체랑 되는 가서 라텐의 동엘 용의 체랑 된데 게 제바 제리기레베 대내영 하디 칙년바 남바 나초기고네 샴데 또와케베 다롱야 하디게 되네 칙년보 제네 되네 샴데드나 칙년보 잠보 년보 제네 되네 랍자 되네 파마니라 되네 또와케 주바레 셈 냥인 상번 냥인 상네 또와케 주 중세기네 림보제 나둥기 좀 제대 루부디 나도 중네 베베등도 최den제소 되네 다 주시시름 하양 칠 내수 송어 되네 야병이 동일상 또와케네 되네 림보제 좀 전에 루부디 나로 룩 최den신 되네 하양 고랑라 양야 되네 가댕기네라 송와레 송음 제일보당 코르 망보 남자 치를 포장도 홍소
So after seeing his parents sitting around his bones and crying, missing him a lot, the Deva thought, the prince who was reborn in this Tushita, he thought in this way: it could be an obstacle for their bodies and their lives if my parents were so unhappy. Therefore, I should go and talk to them to make them happy. Then, after thinking in this way, the Devaputra, or the Mahasattva who was just born in the Tushita, came down or descended from the sky, and he made his parents happy with various sweet words from the sky above them. He talked very nicely to them and tried to make them, and they, so when he talked in that way, the parents looking up at the sky, because parents didn't know who he was, then the parents asked him, "Who are you, Deva?" They know he is a god, but they don't know who he actually is. And then parents looking up at sky and asked the prince, "Who are you, Deva? Please tell us." Then the Deva answered, the god answered, "I am the one who is called Prince Mahasattva, your son. Because I have saved the life of hungry tigress and her cubs by giving my body to them, I was born in the Tushita God's realm. Please understand in this way." So the son who was reborn in the Tushita was talking to his parents who are going through tremendous suffering because of losing their son. So now there's a, "Please understand in this way, great king." So the son told to his parents, who are the king and queen, says, "Please understand in this way that because of giving my body to hungry tigress and her cubs, I have been born here in Tushita. As long as it is in samsara, all dharma comes to an end of destruction. If there is a birth, it is certainly followed by a death. So once you are already born, and there is no way that you can escape from the death, you must die sooner or later. If unwholesome action is committed, sentient beings who committed that will fall down to hell. So if you committed a non-virtuous action, then it is certain that you will fall down to the three lower realms, such as hell, hungry ghosts, and animals. If wholesome action is committed, then people who committed that will take birth in the higher realms, which are the human realm, and Asura's realm, and God's realm. Since the birth and death are possible for everyone, which means everyone, whoever has been born, must die, and this is a very natural thing. Why don't you feel that you are falling down to the ocean of suffering just because of me? So actually what the prince was saying is that don't feel so much unhappy because of my death, because as long as someone is born, he or she must die. There is no way that you can escape from the death after being born. Therefore, it's a very natural thing. You should not go through so much suffering. And then he says, strive for the wholesome dharma, or towards the dharma. So actually the prince was teaching to his parents, saying, don't be sad, don't worry, but practice dharma more. The parent says, if you have saved the tigress with great compassion, and if you are a compassionate for everyone, is it okay for you to act in this way that put us in a great pain? Because you passed away, abandoning us, and now when we think of you, we are suffering so much, just like our flesh or our meat is being cut in pieces. Then the Deva, the prince again try to make the parents happy with various pleasing words, and after talking them by their son, maybe I should say the rebirth of their son, which is now the Deva, the parents become little happier. Then the parents made a box with 7 jewels, seven different kind of precious jewel, and the bone of the son was placed into it, which then they buried under the ground, and a stupa was built on it. And the Deva, the son, returned to his own realm in Tushita. This is his location, and the king with his many entourages returned back to the palace.
Tene so 점된 얘기 끈거로 까절바 스타 tene 상지기 끈거로 송번 케게 일을 지념 스타 tene 케랑기 삼나 tene 간데도 세도 체랑 가레 삼기도 세도 대세 대뒤남 제일보 싱다 첨보대 수인냠도 셈나 다 대갑기 제보 싱다 첨보대 단다 수레 세네처럼 삼게나 대네 다다 나이 약제로 세장만 이노 대 녜마 대네 장주스마 셈첨보기 갑로 제보 싱다 첨보대 단다 대네 녜약 제보 세장들이 대세 대주나 제보 대준 모데니 다다 나이움 하제 주말하제 이노세 다 대갑기 되는 제보 신다 첨베기 준 모데니 단다 네욤 주말하제 되는 대주나 세 랍다 첨보니 잠바 이노세 이두기 다세 랍다 첨본 다세 체야디니 되는 단다 잠바 공부되래 세잖아요. 세 딩보 하첨본이 다다 바소다 미타 세진 교시 여자로 디디를 디인스선 미타이나
바소미트라
미타 대세 대주나 절부 타중 셈젠 첨본이 신도 마셈시 디갑기다 절부 충시 세 절부기 세 충시 셈첨보디 수레 삼나처럼 신다 인스 마삼세 다다랑 아이노 다다 나다 디갑기 세 타중들에 대주나 딱툭니 미디니 인데 대갑기 딱툭디 나단다 정하나라 티적인 그런 게 속잡배기 미니디래 니인데 네 그냥 윤림보네 객레 타로알 제대 속잡네 대화 제소서 네는 되네 강소 윤림보 갑네 장 되네 똑지 시월라서 비 계획을 타로 제대 되네 속잡 제발에 아마기 부사야기 계획라서 서접체기 다 계획을 타로 제대 속잡아네 대화 제발에 ngāngāmbar sāng jēne jāng gēgli tarwa jēne kōrui dūngil chīmbo le yōngsu dōlo dā ngāngāmbar zōba sāng jēne dāndā yāng khonzo gēg zōngi jīgwa le tarwa jēne dēne kōrui dūngil le chīmbo le yōngsu dōba tōba jēbare 대세 근거당 거로 망보 탐지 점된되기 송발라 이랑데 뭔발 때도 샘진 침배 딱말라 류진배 류데 니바오
So when the story was there that the prince Deva who went back to Tushita, and the king, queen, and their all entourages came back to palace. Then at that point, Buddha Bhagavan said to Ananda, what do you think in your mind? Who do you think the king, great chariot of that time was? So Buddha Shakyamuni, the Bhagavan said to Ananda, asked him, but he didn't wait for his question, he just answered. And then he continued, the Bhagavan continued, he says, now my father, King Shuddhodana, was actually the king, great chariot at that time. And now my mother, who is Queen Maya Devi, was the queen of that king at that time. And now the matriarch was the oldest son of that king, who was called the Mahanada. And the second eldest son was the Vasumitra, and there must be someone called Vasumitra at that time. So Buddha said the Vasumitra was the second eldest son of that king at that time. And he says, Buddha continue, and then he says, don't think that the youngest son of that time, Mahasattva, was someone else, because I was that person. It was me, Buddha said. So, in this way, and these two men who were thieves and caught and then about to executed, Buddha said, these two men were the tiger cubs at that time. So in that way, I have saved their lives in the past too, long time ago, and made them happy, freeing from the obstacles. So when the tigress and her cubs are about to die by hunger, then the prince who was a previous life of Buddha Shakyamuni gave Prince Mahasattva, gave his own body so he could save them in that way. And now, Buddha says, now again, after I become a perfect Buddha, I free them from the obstacle and liberated them completely from the great suffering of samsara. At that time, Ananda and all other retinues who are there rejoice what Bhagavan said, and they praise him, Bhagavan. And this is the second chapter of the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, and Prince Mahasattva giving his body to the tigress. So now is 8:51. We will do the Sakya Dolma. After that, we'll do the dedication, and we stop here the teaching. Oh, ya ma nam kha da nya be sem je tam je la ma sangye rinpo che la kya san sho sangye shu da ge de nam la kya san sho la ma ye dang khan do so la kya san sho rang sen dong sa shu ye go kya san she o ya ma ya nam kha da nya be sem je tam je la ma sangye rinpo che la kya san sho sangye shu da ge nam lai kya san lama ye dam khan do so lai kya san sho ra sen dong chu ge go lai kya san sho ma nam kha da nya be sem je tam je lama sang ye ren bo sha lai kya san sho sang ge che dan gen de nam lai kya san sho lama ye dam khan do so lai kya san sho ra sen dong sa chu ge go lai kya san sho man be mo 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 man no man be mo 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 man be oh man be mo man be mo man be oh man be mo 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 man Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Bemoman 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 Oman Behme Voye Dalo Borakele Joravaye Tendane Dan Joya Bese Vaye So Semje Yemen Devene Naem Go Jide Kam So Joya Varaya Mai Gyurenje Chedra Yemen Tebe Se Jajin Keje La Lo Zedra So Droy Nenge Droy Mai Jenyeba Jide Kam So Joya Varaya Mai Gyurenje Chedai Shenje Kaya Nanzu Baendara Mege Meza Tebe Taezebe Nyeje Baeda Taya Berem Soye Luje Goya Laine Baraya Mai Gyurenje Nebe Gereya Toenda Jejoeda Lobra Yedro Somjaya Joeda Shibja Zai Nela Zoya Bayi Lujem Goya Laya Zevaraya Mai Gyurenje Lazam Devaya Maya Luya Trojebe Yonje Troya Be Ngai Jinyeba Malay Ye Daya Doede Baeda Tere Me De Ye De Baraisho Lama Konjo Son Ye Tojeda Kandoi Che Yon Soye Me Ne Toeda Lede Loye Vaye Me Bede Doge Moya Moya Laya Daya Se Do Baraisho
Lama Gunjo Sangye Trinley Khenpo Ugyen Tenzin Let the Lord me be then doggy. Moya la da se do parajo. Lama Gunjo Sangye Trinley Khenpo Let the Lord me be then doggy. Moya la da se do parajo.
Long life prayer for His Holiness.
Jagoy Jera Karma Boy Jagoy Trinley Karma Jagoy Donzoy Wangoy Karma Ugyen Tenzin Shabden Zoy Sije Banjara Maloy Joy Tebe Temba Yere Neba Tenzin Jebe Gewoy Damban Panjang Yere Shabden Zoy Chungai Chamboy Dayen Dungai Sanjan Tagish Kabai Chewa Sanbin Chudun Zejen Shoyoreji.
Our regular dedication prayer and the Trashi prayer, the auspicious verses.
Hoi Sonam Deye Tamje Sekbai Nye Tolne Yebe Ranaya Pamje Yegaya Naje Palaya Trubai Sebe Sole Drowa Drore Shoy Jambala Bawa Chedrai Kembat Kundo Zamboy Teyai Teyen De Pedai Wenge Jeso Dalos Yawan Deda Tamje Ramdo Moy Sangye Kusoy Nyebe Sela Chenye Pengye Dembe Sela Dangende Meshe Dembe Sela Cheda Ngowa Mola Druparayo Dushi Leya Yawen Tenle Haramaya Bade Tembe Nyembo Shodara Gwen Kya Chawjin Gyume Dawa Rambe Peleve Daji Zhu.
Thank you. Good night.